2025 meeting of the Rotary Club of Louisville. I'm Roy Flannery, President and CEO of New Directions, President of this club, and Paul Harris Fellow +1. I want to remind you all, if you have a device today, and I'm usually really good about this, but I'm going to double check, please look at it right now, make sure that it's either silenced or that you completely turn it off for the duration of our meeting. Our meeting is likely to run just a little bit long today, and we understand if you have obligations that require you to leave before it is finished. If that is the case, however, please leave as quietly as you can as we conclude our program. Providing our invocation today is Steve Rungworth, retired engineer, and Paul Harris Fellow.
As Rotarians, we all embrace our motto of service above self and the four-way test. Let us for a moment reflect on some additional admirable qualities. Gratitude, understanding, compassion, humility, kindness, empathy, tolerance. We are all fortunate individuals. May we apply our talents in a thoughtful manner to make the world better in our own unique ways.
Great message. That was beautiful. Thank you, Steve. Now to lead us in the pledge and the Rotary four-way test is Daryl Fuller, President and Partner of Tantalum Partners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You guys are all following.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the four-way pledge.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daryl. Now it's time, Rotarians, if you brought a guest with you here today, if you'll please line up at the microphone closest to those doors on my right. And I'll give you just a second to line up before I lay out the rules. Before we get started, so Rotarians, please introduce yourselves first, then the guests that you have here with it today, indicating what their name is, of course, and their affiliation. And guests, when you hear your name, if you would please stand briefly so that the Rotarians can put a name with a face. Thank you.
Yes, President Lauren, this is Fred Cowan, and my guest today is Kathy Berkey. Kathy is the head of the Alliance for Gun Safety and Community Health. Something, I got rid of the Alliance, and we're glad to have her today.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. Alyssa Gray, President and CEO of the Kentucky Humane Society. And I have my friend Nicole Carroll, and she is the Director of LMPD's Victim Services Unit.
Welcome. And I have my own guest today, and that is Gina Johnson, and Gina is in leadership at New Directions. Welcome, Gina. All right, so like I said, we have a very full agenda today. Normally, this is when I would talk about a lot of what's going on in Rotary, but instead I'm going to encourage you to visit our website at louisvillerotary.org or read the Sparks newsletter that you receive every week to see all of the announcements, the Rotarians in the spotlight, and upcoming events and service opportunities. Now I'd like to invite to the podium someone you just saw, Alyssa Gray, CEO of the Kentucky Humane Society, Board, Club Director, and Chair of our Lifeline Committee for a special presentation.
Hello again. On behalf of the Lifeline Committee and Vice Chair Larry Sloan and I, we are pleased to sponsor a grant in addition to volunteer services by several club members to the First Hour Grief Response. I would like to invite co-founder, executive director in Rotary, Misty Chardine, and Karen Cannon to share a few remarks about the impact of our support.
Hello everyone, my name is Karen Buchanan Meyer, and I'm just going to be very brief. I'm just going to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for what you have done for First Hour, continued support, and understanding that grief is huge. Grief can be very lonely, and that we walk alongside those people. But also thank you from my father, Don Curfey's Rotarian, and my grandfather, Frank Curfey's Rotarian, seeing from above how proud they are of your chapter and what you are doing in our community to help others. And I can't be more grateful. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Misty Chardine, and I just want to say thank you also for the grant. I know the children thank you too. We use this grant to care for youth ages 8 to 13 and 14 to 18. And we have a weekend workshop that we do. We encourage processing their grief through art therapy. And we also have another program called Hope Wave, and you'll see on each of the tables some information about First Hour Grief and the services we offer. But we believe we're really making a difference in our youth because grief left unaddressed can lead to a lot of bad choices later on in life. And so through art therapy and through one-to-one grief mentoring, we are helping a lot of kids who are dealing with anger that can often lead to revenge and depression that can lead to despair. And so by helping the community in this way, thank you very much. Thank you for supporting us. We also have programs for adults as well. And again, information on your table about us. You can go to firsthourgrief.org. You can see some of the projects that we do with them. We do some painting of like before and after the event happened. We've actually taken them to pottery classes to create grief memory boxes in honor of their loved ones. And next month we're doing Beautifully Broken, where we're going to do a kintsugi exercise with them and break something and make it more beautiful again. So they're learning a lot about grief through art, and it's just wonderful. They want to come every week. It's amazing. So thank you for your support.
I just noticed it. Larry.
Sorry, we can't do it without you. You did all the hard work with Wright and Rand.
Right in the middle.
Yeah.
Right in the middle.
You're going in, Larry. Moving good? Yeah. All right, look over here towards me, please.
All right, well, thank you all so much, and thank you for the work you do. We are actually recipients of some of those services with our adult staff at New Directions, and it really does help. So thank you very much. We are very happy to partner with you on that. Now I'd like to invite to the podium Fred Cowan, who serves as Attorney General of Kentucky, as a member of the Kentucky House of Representatives, and as a Circuit Court Judge. So I don't know if you figured that out or not, but that means he's been elected, not just appointed or hired, but elected to all three branches of Kentucky state government, which I'm pretty impressed with. Talk about well-rounded, right? He is also the chair of our club's Gun Violence Reduction Subcommittee, of the Community Impact Committee, chair of the Rotary District 6710 Peace Fellows Committee, and he's a major donor.
Thank you. Thank you, Lori. Let me coordinate all this stuff, get my laptop here and see if it comes on like it's supposed to. There we go. Okay. So what I would like to do is just give you a brief synopsis and background hopefully within 4 or 5 minutes, of what has been going on with the gun violence committee. Let's see, that's up there. Okay, so here's a little bit of the background, hopefully, okay. And if you can switch that, please. Thank you. Although Lori gave me, somebody gave me a clicker to delete it, I don't know what happened.
It's right there.
Oh, is it? Okay, maybe I can. This committee was established right after the Old National shooting. And I want to commend, and I'm glad she's here today, one of the best darn presidents we ever had, Jean West, for making this motion or bringing this issue up to the board, that we as a civic organization, leading civic organization, ought to address this major issue in our community. So the board established this committee as a subcommittee of the Community Impact Committee. You will remember the Community Impact Committee initiated the whole West Louisville Housing Initiative, which has been very successful. So our goal was to address the ongoing gun violence in the community. We had seen an increasing number of deaths, particularly young people. It had been a serious problem. And we decided to follow the West Louisville Housing Initiative kind of platform, which was to have a series of listening sessions to try to get input from the community about what we, two things. One, what the problem was, how to address it, and what we as a Rotary Club could actually do. So we had 3 sessions they were on Saturday mornings, and a number of you attended the sessions either virtually or in person. And we heard from a lot of different people. We found that there are a large number of activities going on in Louisville. People were saying, like, what's going on? What are we doing? Are we doing anything about gun violence? Well, it turns out there are a lot of people doing a lot of different things. And some of those organizations that were founded through, or funded in part through Metro government. Here's some more about that today. Here are some of the presenters. I won't read all their names, but you can see that it has a wide variety of people and all represented different types of not just viewpoints, but different types of activities. And they presented to us. And this is just a small inkling of all the organizations in the community that are actually working on gun violence. In fact, there was a survey done that showed that there are over 300 organizations in Metro Louisville that are working on these issues. We, after some work, we developed a mission statement. The mission of the Rotary Club of Louisville's Gun Violence Reduction Subcommittee is to equitably explore options and facilitate solutions which will lead to fewer gun violence-related incidents in Kentucky. After hearing from so many different people, we tried to put together kind of a list of priorities, and we actually voted on them and ranked them as best we were able to. Luke Schmidt helped us do that through a facilitation session we had at Goodwill, thanks to Amy Luttrell at Goodwill last year. And the first one I've got listed here is advocacy legislative action taken by individuals. As a Rotary Club, you know we cannot lobby as a club, but as individuals, we're able to do that. So we talked about some of the major legislative priorities. One, and I noticed that Mayor Greenberg addressed this issue during this last session of the General Assembly, is repeal legislation preempting all actions by cities. There is legislation in Kentucky that says that cities, basically, metro government, whatever, cannot take any action with respect to limiting any type of weapons or gun control. So there's nothing that the city of Louisville per se can do other than through the community activities of enforcing existing laws. Second was requiring background checks for purchase of weapons. Needs to be a much better system of background checks in Louisville. The third is supporting the car legislation. The car legislation. This legislation has been developed by the Whitney Strong organization. Whitney Austin, you recall, is the young woman who was so brutally shot in Cincinnati, Fifth Third Bank. Oh, there's Whitney. Whitney, please stand up. Welcome, glad you're here. Whitney is a member of Rotary, and she has devoted her life to, and you've heard from her, this club has heard from her a couple of times, she's devoted her life to working on this issue, and has helped direct us towards this piece of legislation, which is designed to temporarily remove weapons from individuals who have been determined through the court process to be in imminent risk of harming someone, themselves or someone else. And Whitney's been working diligently along with some other groups, particularly Moms for Men in Action, to try to get the legislature to move in that direction. So far without a lot of success, but Whitney, who has presented herself as her organization is trying to be a very reasonable, common ground-oriented organization, has been working diligently on that. And some of us went to Frankfurt last year for a hearing, huge hearing on the issue before the legislature. There were a couple hundred people at least in the hearing room, and there was a spillover room with another 100 or so people listening to this legislation. But as you can imagine, it's very difficult to move legislation through the Kentucky General Assembly at this time, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't keep trying. So Whitney's organization and others have been working hard on that. Second, community awareness. Build awareness of issues by addressing other Rotary clubs and district convention. Actually, Whitney addressed the district convention last year, and we need to do more of that. We really haven't reached out to other clubs as of yet, but that's something that we're definitely on the agenda. The second thing was develop a Rotary recognition, somehow for this club to recognize one or more community groups during the year, maybe with a cash award, maybe not a cash award, but just give them recognition for the work they're doing in the community, to bring it to the forefront and keep all of us aware of the issues that we're working on. We have made an effort to schedule speakers. Our speakers today, whom I will introduce in a moment, are a result of that. We want to try to have at least twice a year main speakers to talk about this issue, because it is in the forefront of all of our minds, really, and it is such a critical importance. And finally, developing a list of volunteer opportunities for Rotary members to assist in reducing gun violence. So that's something that hopefully we'll be doing soon. Additional concept, gun safety training for Rotary members. Aaron McGahey has talked about doing this for quite some time. Aaron's here today, and we appreciate that. There's a whole program to distribute trigger locks. The idea is with trigger locks that if you do have a weapon, if you have it locked, it's a lot less likely to be used by someone who is either has nefarious purposes or intends to harm themselves. Address suicide prevention. Suicide, by the way, and this is something I didn't realize until I got into it, suicide is the leading cause of death through gun violence. In other words, more people die in Kentucky and throughout the nation every year from suicide by guns than die from homicides. So it's again, there are all different kinds of complex situations involved with that. The possibility of participating in Whitney Strong suicides prevention programs there. Possibly assisting in mentorship programs. Well, that's tough for us to figure the right connection for how you can actually help mentor somebody who might have a potential for violence down the road. And we talked about getting the Juvenile Detention Center reopened in Jefferson County. You will recall that we had in Jefferson County for many years the Juvenile Detention Center. So if a young person was arrested for doing something violent or exhibiting something violent, they were held in detention while they were waiting for the processing here in Jefferson County. Well, money dried up. We had to close that, or it had to be closed. And now there's discussion of reopening it through the state, run by the state. It was run by Jefferson County or by Metro government. Now it will be run by the state. And the big advantage of this is for young people who are detained, you know, they're not detained 200 miles away, they're detained here, so they're a lot closer to their family. To the extent that you can have a connection with your family, that always helps. So that's pretty much a summary of that. Here's just a list of the members. A lot of people involved. There's shown to be a lot of enthusiasm for doing something, and I'm sure many of you feel that in this room. And we're welcome to have new members to the committee and new ideas about ways to go forward. But as I said, we've come down the path. So again, what we want to do is raise community awareness, do what we can to assist in this endeavor on a person-by-person basis, and hopefully make our community safer. So that's pretty much the background of where we are and where we've been. So I think, Madam President, I think I can go into the introduction of the speakers at this point, or do?
No, actually, I need you to come over here for 1 minute. You'll stand right here. Coming to the podium, who has been earlier recognized, but it bears repeating, Jean West, one of the best darn Rotary presidents ever. She is up here today to make a special presentation. As I said, Jean is a former club president. She is the owner and producer of Faces West Productions. She's also a Paul Harris Fellow +1. So welcome to the podium, Jean.
Fred's over here wondering why I switched his script. He wasn't supposed to see some things. So you heard our motto is Rotarians to service above self. Excuse me. It emphasizes putting the needs of others and the community before one's own. It encourages Rotarians to think about how they can help others and contribute to the well-being of society. Now, Rotarians who demonstrate this motto through their involvement in a variety of service projects, both locally and internationally, address issues like hunger, poverty, education, and community issues. It was 2014. The case was a Berrytown, Louisville slave. The Jefferson Circuit Court judge in that case sentenced a man to 3 decades behind bars for the brutal shooting death. That judge, during sentencing, called gun violence in 2014 the plague on our society. He said, for one reason or another, there is an epidemic of weapons, especially, but not exclusively, among young black men. He called it a multifaceted problem that's not being addressed, and he said there has to be a better solution to conflicts than pulling out guns. That judge was Judge Fred Calvin. Fast forward to 2023, the horrific Old National Bank shooting, and we, as Rotarians, again, as we did after the Breonna Taylor shooting and aftermath, decided that we, as community leaders, could not be tone deaf to the gun violence plaguing our community. And once again, as Fred has said, our Community Impact Committee, under the leadership of Luke Schmidt, formed a gun violence reduction subcommittee. Who better to lead that subcommittee than the judge who almost 10 years ago saw the need? Judge Cowan has not wavered in his mission to help us understand the cope of this problem with sharing information, attending presentations, organizing the sessions he just talked about. And it is my pleasure and honor in awarding Judge Fred Cowan the Service Above Self Award for 2025.
you so much, Jean, and congratulations, Fred. And yes, now you get to do the introduction of today's speaker.
Thank you very much for that wonderful award. Truly thrilled. So, what can I say? It's unexpected, and I had no idea it was coming, but that's okay. I'll accept it. Don't look a gift worse than that, right? Okay, so I want to now turn to our main speakers who are relevant to the topics we've just been talking about. We've invited two very special guests. We invited two very special guests. They both have incredibly impressive backgrounds. That give them the ability to successfully fight the scourge of violence that imperils our city and stains our reputation and our collective sense of safety. Because, well, not because of time constraints, right? Let's see, where is my?
I think you have my script.
I was wondering where the introduction was. Jean is spending a lot of time in Aruba, as you know. And that hot sun is probably just made it so nice for her to take it easy. Anyway. Our first speaker, and I'm going to introduce them both and then ask them to come up and handle their speaking, is the one. This is Deputy Mayor David James, who has spoken to us before. He is probably the most qualified, seriously, probably the most qualified individual in Kentucky to address the problems of crime and gun safety. He joined the police department back in the old days when we had a city and a county government. He joined the police department in 1984 and was awarded Rookie of the Year. He ultimately became head of the Fraternal Order of Police. He served in the U.S. Army Reserves and Intelligence. He led the Bureau of Investigations in the Kentucky Attorney General's office, his first bureau when it was first set up. And then he was elected to Metro Council and served 5 terms as president of the council. In 2023, he was appointed deputy mayor with responsibility over emergency services, and in 2024, he became the statutory deputy mayor. Misty Wright is the mayor's executive director of community safety. Prior to assuming this position in January, she was an assistant United States attorney in Chicago for 9 years, prosecuting gangs, cartels for violent crimes, drug trafficking, and money laundering. While at the U.S. Attorney's Office, she received numerous awards from the law enforcement community. Previously, she was also a law clerk to the Honorable John Haber, who, as you know, passed away a few years ago, who was a wonderful judge and lawyer. Now, to top it all off, she's a graduate of Sacred Heart, graduated magna cum laude from Yale College, not bad, and is a graduate of Harvard Law School. While at Harvard, she received a pro bono award for having provided more than 1,000 hours of pro bono services, volunteer legal services. And I can tell you, since I also graduated from there, that's a lot of good time to someone devoted while being a law student, full-time law student. So I would like to ask you all to welcome them both, and then however you want to handle it.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. How are you all doing today?
Great.
Good. So I'm not going to spend much time talking. I'm going to let Misty do most of the talking here. We searched high and low to find our executive director of community safety out of the mayor's office. We spent over a year looking, and we found Misty Wright. And she's doing an outstanding job, and she's got some exciting news to tell you.
Well, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I really appreciate that. And good afternoon, Rotarians. It's nice to be here with you today. Thank you for the invitation. I want to spend time today telling you about violence, what it looks like in Louisville right now, and what your mayor is doing about it right now. And part of what we'll talk about today is Safe Louisville. That's the mayor's brand new comprehensive violence reduction plan that dropped yesterday. So you all are the first group to hear about it. I'm excited to tell you. But let's start with 2025, what we look like so far. Some good progress, promising results. Shootings and homicides are both down 30% as compared to this time last year. That's a colossal change, and part of it can be due to a lot of different factors. Part of it's violence prevention efforts, part of it's LMPD's new leadership and their crime plan that they came out with and are implementing right now. But I want to caution you because we're approaching the summer, and violence is cyclical. We can expect to see an uptick in gun violence no matter what as we reach the hot months of the year. I want to talk to you a little bit more about the evolution of gun violence over the last 14 years. So from 2010 to 2024, if you take a look at your screen, the yellow line is homicides, the blue line is non-fatal shootings. All across the United States, we saw a huge uptick in crime, in particular violent crime, and in particular gun crime, right around the pandemic. So in Louisville, we started a little earlier. We got an uptick in 2015, but it really hit us hard here with COVID. The top of that is 643. 643 people were shot that year, and 178 people lost their lives that year. That is a devastating number. Any number is bad. This is devastating. Since then, we're trending in the right direction. But last year, we're at 363 people being shot and 141 people being killed, and that's still way too high. I want to tell you a little bit more about demographics, and these are based on 2024 crime statistics obtained from LMPD. About 15% of victims and 17% of perpetrators were under 18. So juveniles are a big part of this, but media would make you think that maybe they're a bigger part than they are. They still are a relatively small percentage as compared to overall gun violence. 81% of victims and 87% of perpetrators were males, mostly between the ages of 18 and 34. 74% of victims and 73% of perpetrators were Black. Virtually the rest were white, 18% of victims and 26% of perpetrators. Approximately 31% of the shootings were gang or group violence related. And I use group violence because that is a more extensive term. Louisville has an interesting gang iteration. It's not as hierarchical and as territorial as it used to be. So we have these pockets of, in particular, young people who commit crimes together, and their allegiances may shift, and they may not have a perfect name, but they still are committing group violence. So that is why group violence is included in the statistic. And approximately 50% of shootings, a little bit under, were located in the West End. This is a graphic showing you the percent of population living in poverty in Louisville. And red dots are homicides, yellow dots are non-fatal shootings. The more purple, the more people are living in poverty. So take a look at what the purple is. Now here is a map of the percent of the population that did not graduate high school by age 25. Look for the dark purple. The percent of the population that is unemployed, again, look for the dark purple. And percent of housing units that are vacant. Again, check out that dark purple. So what does this tell us? It tells us that any solution has to be comprehensive. It tells us, along with studies that have been going on for decades, that there are certain factors that go along with crime. They correlate and they are predictive of crime. And it's things like unemployment rate, it's things like poverty level, it's things like urban blight, public infrastructure, proliferation of guns. Those are things that we see affecting crime. Enter Safe Louisville. Here's the brand new plan. A comprehensive violence reduction plan from 2025 to 2030, and it has a very simple vision. Every Louisvillian lives free from violence and feels safe in their community. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to focus on three different things, three pillars for this plan. Number one, prevention. Number two, intervention. And number three, enforcement. And I want to take the next 10 minutes or so and give you a better understanding of each of these categories. Let's start with prevention. Prevention is about combating the root causes of violence. That's those drivers that we just saw: poverty, unemployment, lack of education. All of those things need to be addressed because we can't address only the symptoms. We have to address the underlying conditions if we want to have meaningful change, something that lasts. This is about creating conditions for peace. Starting with public infrastructure. Urban blight is a major problem for a lot of underserved communities here in Louisville. So what we're going to do about that is prioritize those communities. Make sure the streetlights there are on. Make sure that all of the trash cleanup is happening timely. And make sure that all of those things that we take for granted that we enjoy in our neighborhoods are happening there too. So part of that is public amenities. One of the mayor's priorities has been making sure that we get parks cleaned up and revitalized. Those kinds of things, like Algonquin Swimming Pool is coming. We've seen Alberta O. Jones Park. The new waterfront playboard just opened. It's fabulous. Those are things that boost the social capital of neighborhoods, and those are worthwhile investments. Next, we're going to increase access to youth education and activities. The studies are clear. Early childhood education is determinative of justice involvement later in life. It is. Every child should have free, quality early childhood education. And that's the mayor's Thrive by 5 plan that he put into place already. So that's underway right now. But in addition to that, we are responsible for getting our kids busy doing things. And to that end, we will work with community organizations and with business leaders to create new opportunities for our kids to learn and for our kids to get job opportunities that get them excited about working and excited about learning more. We're also increasing access to libraries for our kids. So the mayor has invested a ton of resources into renovating and reopening libraries like the Parkland Library that just reopened in February. It's beautiful. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Next, we'll focus on economic stability. And here I'm talking about jobs and housing. So we are focusing on attracting good jobs to Louisville and also having them locate in our underemployed areas. So the West End just saw the Goodwill Opportunity Center and just saw Norton Hospital open. That's fantastic. Other businesses are coming here and are locating there as well. And with respect to housing, the mayor unveiled My Louisville Home, a comprehensive plan that includes affordable housing as one of its tenets. But we're also going to work on reimagining what low-income and public housing looks like. So the community care campus is under construction right now in Smoketown. It's a $58 million project. And it's going to make low-income and public housing somewhere that people want to be, that can enjoy their lives there. And people need that for their dignity. Next, we will work on facilitating community resource connections. And this one's really crucial because as Fred was saying, we have so many organizations that are working in this space. And it is incumbent upon the government to make sure that those folks can combine efforts and can avoid redundancies in the work that they're doing. We are postured to be able to do that. So we are going to take that on and try to enhance their work. And that includes peer investment as well. Mayor Greenberg's administration has already invested in over 130 community organizations to the tune of nearly $34 million. Those are just organizations doing violence prevention work. Next, we have to build community trust in police. Louisville took a hit, we all know that. But police reform is underway right now, and it doesn't matter what happens with the litigation, it's going on in court. We are moving forward with police reform, complete with an independent monitor that will be able to oversee that and report out on progress. And finally, much like Fred was just talking about, common sense gun legislation, which includes so many things that we need to advocate for. Not only the things that you mentioned, but also things like keeping guns out of the hands of domestic abusers. We have Supreme Court case law from last year that supports that now. We need to push for it anew, regardless of the obstacles that may be in place. All right, that was prevention. That was the longest one. It's going to get shorter from here. All right, and here's just a visual of what prevention looks like, so you just get the mood. This is the feel-good stuff that hopefully will affect the next generation of people who live here. Intervention's next. Intervention is about stopping potential shooters before they act. So really trying to stop that cycle of incarceration, the cycle of violence, intervene meaningfully. And how we're going to do that is using violence intervention initiatives, which is a generic term, but they're really important because this is how we get at gang and group violence. This is our main strategy for doing that. It's about reaching out to people who are at risk of becoming shooters or becoming victims and giving them incentives to change and ways to get out of that lifestyle. So we have multiple strategies that are at play here right now. Some involve law enforcement, some do not. I'm happy to speak to you more about them. If you want to look them up, group violence intervention and pivot to peace, which Goodwill is a dominant force in, are our two main strategies. Next, we will promote conflict resolution alternatives, things that can resolve conflict out of court. So things like restorative justice. That gives victims and juvenile offenders the option, if they want to come to their own resolution with the help of a counselor. Or things like deflection. 911 calls that come in that are better suited for a mental health professional are going to a mental health professional and not going to a police officer. So in the first 2 months of this year, over 600 calls went to mental health professionals that would have had to go to a police officer otherwise. And finally, for intervention, we will provide trauma and reentry services. Trauma services in the context of gun violence have to be provided to the entire family, not just the trauma victim, and also to the community that then bears the brunt of the destabilization effects that gun violence has. So we are going to expand our scope and try to reach more people for those services. And for reentry, the folks who have served their time, who are ready to reenter society and are ready to be law-abiding members of our society, we have to give them a fair shot to do that. We're going to give them comprehensive resources to be able to make that transition. And here's what intervention looks like. We've highlighted GVI, that's group violence intervention here, and the next one is pivot to peace right next to it. All right, last pillar, we have prevention, we had intervention, now we're on to enforcement. So LMPD came up with a crime plan. This plan does not in any way conflict with LMPD's crime plan. It incorporates it and it supplements their efforts. Enforcement is about protecting the public and holding offenders accountable. So first, we are going to give law enforcement the support they need to protect us. And that means helping with recruitment and retention of our qualified professional officers. We are raising officer pay. We are investing in the Summit Wellness Center that opened last year. It's already become a national model for taking care of our first responders physically, mentally, and also financially. Next, we're promoting public order. People have to feel safe in addition to being safe. So one of the tenets of this is the Safe and Healthy Streets Initiative. And that's where we go out and we affirmatively give resources to people who are unhoused for their health and safety, but also we take action where needed so that the public can be safe in our public spaces. Next, we are going to leverage our state and federal partnerships. And this is particularly important while LMPD is understaffed. Depending on who you speak to, about 300 officers down. So we need to use our resources intelligently. This is about making sure that we reach the right people and pull them off the street. The people who are driving violence in our community. The people who need a timeout. And to do this, we are working with federal and state law enforcement and capitalizing on their assets. So some of these efforts look like the Prohibited Firearms Possessor Initiative. And that's where all of the levels of government are sharing intelligence and deciding who to prioritize, making sure that we're going after people who are violence drivers to give communities relief from these people. Or the Violent Crime Reduction Team. The Kentucky Attorney General just gave us prosecutors, first time ever, who are here to allow us to prosecute more gun cases. And finally, we will promote justice system transparency and process improvements. We need to make sure that our judges have full information about the offenders and the offenses before they decide whether to release those people back into the community right where they came from. We have to make sure that the public understands judges' decisions too. And just like you were speaking about, Fred, we need a juvenile detention center right here in Jefferson County. And I can provide an update on that. In Jefferson County, we have 2 juvenile detention facilities. The first one, JCYC, shuttered at the very end of 2019, beginning of 2020. Then the progress went stagnant. There was nothing going on. It's a testament to this mayor's efforts and his relationship with the state that the process is moving again. The state owns that facility now. Bidding went out for renovating that facility earlier this month. So it is finally moving again. That is the facility that handles the most serious cases. The lower security facility is out in Linden, and that's being renovated right now. So it is on track. It's also state-owned. It is on track to reopen next year. So there will be relief in that category soon. And here's what our enforcement looks like. All right. So that's the plan. 3 pillars: prevention, intervention, and enforcement. And I want to give you a little bit more information about how that's going to work. So in my capacity as Executive Director of Community Safety, I will be coordinating the implementation of the plan. We've got one more slide there in the end. And I'll be working with an office that was formerly known as OSHN, the Office for Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods. It is now the Office of Violence Prevention. We're going to call it what it is. And its mission will be slightly tweaked to be able to implement this plan and focus on the priorities that this plan has. I'm also going to be working with LNPD and other partners, both in and out of government, to make sure we can execute this plan. Overseeing the plan will be a new Community Safety Commission. And that will be comprised of community members from all across our city, of representatives from the justice system, and also representatives from community organizations. Everyone will get a seat at that table, and we'll be able to hear progress, provide feedback, and ensure that there is transparency and accountability throughout this process. Our goals are lofty. We want to reduce gun violence, shootings, and homicides by 15% every year. With everyone working together, we can do that. This is an unprecedented approach. This is a coordinated effort, and everyone's on board. We're going to roll with that momentum and move forward as quickly as possible to attain these goals. But keep in mind, the greatest effects are going to be what happens for the next generation. We have to keep our commitment going that long to see the true effects of what we do. Thank you, everyone, for listening today. I really appreciate the time, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you.
Thank you, Misty. So Misty, the way we do this, if you'll please stay where you are. Rotarians, if you have questions of our speakers, please come to the microphone behind me. Make sure you remember to follow the rules of questions, which is on your screen. And they're the same every week, so please pay attention.
Thank you for the presentation. My name is Mike Buckley. One thing I want to maybe suggest, or maybe I missed, is nothing on the family. I think studies have shown that promoting the family, 2 parents in the home, graduate from high school, less violence, less et cetera. Is there any, did I miss something? I mean, what is it that we're going to promote the white, black, poor families to celebrate how tough their job is, and we're going to be behind 100%, as well as the single family homes?
First, you're right. There is a correlation between single-parent households.
Did you introduce yourself? Did I miss that? Did you introduce? Okay, so that's my miss. I just want to remind everybody, please also introduce yourselves before you ask your question. Thank you, my bad.
There is a correlation between single-parent households and outcomes in violence in neighborhoods. Those percentages do correlate. So it's not a bad thing to focus on. There are community organizations who are doing that work right now. The government, however, in this plan, we can't do everything. We have to prioritize, and it is not a pillar of this plan. Reaching families as part of trauma services, as I described, is. Inherently, in any intervention initiative, there is work with that family. You have to work with the entire family, sometimes relocating the entire family. But you're right, it is not an action item in the plan.
Thank you, Misty. My name is Tom Bonert. And from your presentation, it appears that the right person has been chosen to lead this. My question is with regard to prevention and intervention. There are a number of gun ranges in the area and an untold number of gun vendors. And I'm very curious about how you might be able to, or how you are planning to involve them in this initiative.
Thank you for that question. A couple of different ways. First, legislatively, we are restricted in what we can do on gun control. We just are. It doesn't mean we're not going to advocate it, but we're restricted. When we talk about their involvement, it can go sour or it can go friendly. The sour side is we are going to shut down businesses that promote or facilitate crime, period. We have multiple ways to do that through ABC, through codes and regulations. This is an effort for all of government. All the agencies are on board. So we are going to use whatever tool we have to remove things that are dangerous for people. But as allies, it's a great idea to get them involved in the conversation. And that's something that we should explore doing more. That hasn't been something that was part of the original plan, but I love that idea.
Hi, I'm Ron Gallo. I'm the CEO of the Community Foundation. First of all, I want to commend you and Deputy Mayor on the vision. We're in a 10-second statement, no question, all within 30 seconds. Those of you who know I was born in the South Bronx and raised in North Harlem. And the elements of your plan is what saved my life. Public libraries, a police force that actually walked the streets and we knew their name. And most of all, the public high school that looked like a palace. And those elements are all embedded in that, and also leaning into community voices. I represent an institution that has 2,000 fund holders and who distribute 90 million a year. And public safety is one of our goals. We need to be aligned, is really what I'm saying. My question, if I have one, is simply about the only growing population we have here demographically is immigrants, and has been true for a long time. So is there a piece of this, maybe unsaid today, that has a special emphasis on supporting and growing that population, which is so important to our future?
Thank you. I agree. It's extremely important to support the immigrant community, and Mayor Greenberg constantly emphasizes that we are a welcoming city. We are. For the purpose of enforcement, we need to treat folks the same, regardless of where you came from, whether you're here legally or illegally. We're going to protect you the same way. Same with intervention. Intervene the same way. Everyone has a right to be free from violence, and I don't care where you came from. With respect to outreach, though, there are specific organizations that are within areas that are being prioritized in our city, and I didn't get into that just because of time. There are 5 areas in the city that are described in LMP's plan. It's sustained focus improvement areas, and what they did is they analyzed crime trends using a weighted system and found areas that needed the most help. And those areas are being prioritized for everything, not just police presence and deterrence, but also city services. Some of those are areas like Americana that have huge immigrant population. You would expect that overlap to happen. So those are some of the ways that it will inherently be a priority of the mayor going forward. We also have relationships with nonprofits who are involved in the immigrant space.
Hi, Jean West, and thank you for that presentation. First, I'd like to ask that representative from the Rotary Club be on your community advisors or community groups that's looking at this problem, since we are also looking at the issue as well. We can be a resource, I'm sure. Question is, medical marijuana is now legal in Kentucky, and my understanding is that if you apply for and receive approval to have medical marijuana, you cannot legally own a firearm. If that is true, is there an entity that's responsible for enforcing that?
That is murky. And it's murky because federally, we still can't have weed. And so there are different ways that can be enforced. My understanding is that it's not a law enforcement priority at this time. It's more of an administrative codes situation at this time. But my understanding of that, admittedly, is not a deep one, and Deputy Mayor might have some more information on that. Deputy Mayor, do you want to say anything?
Thank you. So, Louisville passed a law about 5 years ago called marijuana as the lowest priority for law enforcement here in our community. So the enforcement of that is not going to be an LMPD priority going forward. It is an administrative process from the state, though, if they choose to enforce it. But here locally, that's arresting people for marijuana is not our priority.
Thank you, sir.
Amy Bottrell from Goodwill, and I think we're all very happy that Deputy Mayor James and Mayor Greenberg were able to attract you back here to Louisville. So what can
brings them together so that they can see the big picture and make sure all of the things that they're doing at that level count? Didn't know if that was being done and how you coordinate that. That's the first question. And then the second question has to do with recidivism, because I didn't hear that being discussed, because I know that there may be some people that are out there that are repeat offenders, and what are we doing to combat that so we can lower that as well? Thank you.
Let me start with your second question. So one of the factors, LMPD also has a three-pronged plan, not the same, but different. And one of their prongs is dealing with repeat offenders. It's prioritizing violent repeat offenders. And a lot of what they're doing is making sure that they address fugitive situations where there are outstanding warrants. They're pouring more resources. The Prohibited Firearms Possessor Initiative that I mentioned before, inherently a lot of those folks are repeat offenders. So the different initiatives that are being employed throughout the city, primarily led by LMPD and our law enforcement partners, are focused on recidivism specifically. We also have, through the Office of Violence Prevention now, we have someone embedded with juvenile court. Part of their task is to work with the judge on setting those folks up for success once they show up in court. The whole goal is to reduce recidivism. So once they get out, they don't get out and get into more trouble. There's a continuity of care issue there. So that's another thing that we're doing. With respect to your first question, who is the convener? We are convening people in multiple ways. One will be Community Safety Commission that will get report outs all the time. But each of these strategies has a team behind it. So, for example, the Sustained Focus Improvement Strategy that I mentioned to you was just in a meeting for that yesterday. We had 40 people representing all of the agency heads who are relevant for that effort in the mayor's office yesterday, along with law enforcement, talking about how we can make specific areas of our city better. Some conveners are better suited to be outside of government. So there are community organizations like the Alliance that are taking it upon themselves to get community organizations speaking to one another and figuring out how they can help and enhance each other's efforts. We will continue to support that kind of effort going forward.
Just sort of, my name is Carl Conslow. I'm a retired business owner who had a business in the West End. Sort of a follow-up to what you said. One of the last meetings, Barbara recommended talking about the new park and her wonderful experience. Well, I had dinner last week with a couple, and they're somewhere to the right of Attila the Hun. When we got done with dinner, we got done early, I went and took them on a tour featuring that park, which anybody who has not gone is phenomenal. It's clean, it's busy, even including the flood. What I thought was, I wouldn't have known about it had I not attended the meeting. I don't know how many people have or know about it in the city, and I don't even know how many people in this room went there. I wonder how do you get people to go to the West End? Because I took them to see the Norton Hospital, the new, Goodwill Center, and all the positive things that are going. Hell, if we could have a bourbon tour, and we have something that shows the people where to go, and to highlight the city, and just it sounds crazy, but when my mother was alive and lived in Florida, they gave people a free lunch and $10 to take them to a casino in Hollywood, and they would get the bus route. Is there some program that we could outline where to take people, or some program to motivate, whether they be senior citizen organizations or whatever, to take tours to us?
I love that idea. Some of what the city is doing is trying to draw people to different areas of the city by having events there, especially well-established events. Earthfest was not in the East End this year. One of the Derby events, one of the primary Derby events is going to be in the West End. Heather, do you remember which one that was?
Block party.
There we go. Block Party is going to be up there. And of course, downtown is the epicenter for Derby and lots of other things that happen throughout the year. So that is kind of an obvious intersection that the city's aware of and is working on right now. I would love any ideas you have about how to get people downtown. I think the more, and on the West End, the more positive talk we can generate about it, the more we can disabuse people of the notion that they're going to be randomly walking down the street and then shot. Which is not going to happen. The more we can do that, the more we'll get people to come down. So any ideas, please let us know.
Okay, Barbara Sexton-Smith, former statutory deputy mayor, and stay tuned in this rewirement mode. 24 years living in downtown Louisville, I can attest, I love her brand. It is so laughable downtown. Safe, it's so safe, it's laughable. We laugh all over the sidewalks. My question, as he makes his way to join you, is for the statutory deputy mayor, David James. I've been waiting to ask him a question in front of an audience. But as he comes, on my way over here, I did run into on the sidewalk a New York Police Department retired official and a school teacher who's on vacation. They got in their car and drove here from New York because they heard, no kidding, that we were such a fun city. They're down here. Deputy Mayor, I'll find him and introduce you. Here's my question. Since you and I work together so closely, specifically on active shooter training, we got a room full of business owners, many of whom have facilities. Could you just give a real quick, because I know we've only got time for one more question behind me, I think, on who they could call and what might an active shooter training look like and why it's so critically important? Thanks.
Thank you. Barbara and I worked together for years. I love her. Real quick, we do active shooter training for businesses, LMPD does, and we can do it in less than an hour, or we can do it in 4 hours. It's up to you, okay? The 4-hour one is a active participation kind of thing. The 1 hour is a classroom kind of setting, and we just go over the basics, and we just want to make sure everybody is safe and okay. Unfortunately, it usually takes something bad to happen for people to say, we probably should do that. For example, when the Old National Bank shooting happened, everybody was calling, wanting to get that information. But the simplest way to do it is call 311, which is our call line, and tell them what you want. They'll get it to the police department. The police department will reach back out to you and set up the training. Okay? Thank you.
I'm Cliff Elgin, retired. I notice on the national news every morning, every evening, every one of them makes time for some very positive news story. I almost never see that and our local news organization? What can we do to get them to promote positive things going on in the city?
That is something that's keeping me up at night. I mean, we are affirmatively reaching out to try to drum up interest with stories that we think would be fun and people would be interested in. But some of the stuff, we just only have so much control over what the news cares about, and when they're more focused on viewership, competition issues, clicks, etc., it's very difficult. We will continue those efforts, but also on the side, we're putting forth our own efforts to reach people in ways that people consume media, social media. Making our own videos. If you're not going to feature a great community organization, I'll go interview that in an organization and post the video. And that's something, we're starting a video series soon that will do just that. So we are trying to directly push out as much information, the positive information as we can, through all social media channels that we can. In addition to continuing to try to get our partners on local news to care about those stories.
Fred, don't forget this. Okay. Well, obviously, we want to thank Deputy Mayor David James for being here. We want to thank Executive Director Misty Wright for being here. Definitely a timely issue, but also I'm going to reiterate what you heard from Amy Luttrell of Goodwill. Congratulations to the city and congratulations to us for having you bring your talents back to your hometown. So thank you all for being here with us today. I do want to note that Fred Cowan, the chair of the Gun Violence Prevention Committee at Rotary, will be meeting at the conclusion of this Rotary lunch meeting, and I believe it's through the buffet to the room right past that. So if there's anybody in the room who's interested in that committee, please join it. Next week's meeting will feature ISCO CEO Jimmy Kirchdorfer, a member of the Kentucky Golf Hall of Fame. He'll be discussing his family business and golf course irrigation and how it grew into a global piping solutions provider, and at the same time help bring professional golf to Louisville. From purchasing Valhalla in 2022, hosting the 2024 PGA Championship, landing the 2028 Solheim Cup, and becoming the title sponsor of the ISCO Championship, which is a PGA Tour event to be held at Hurstbourne Country Club this summer, Jimmy will share about the journey of bringing professional golf to his hometown. You're going to want to RSVP by noon on Monday if you want to attend that meeting, or you can scan the QR code that you see on the screen right now. Guests, if you are interested in Rotary and you have just a few moments, there's a What is Rotary table over there. Past President John Bush is holding up the What is Rotary. He has information that he can give you. It's very simple and it won't take very long. So please consider doing that if your schedule permits. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week. We are adjourned.